Thanks for that, Louise Hanna in the newsroom. Yes, it's time for The World This Week. 7 days, 4 Paris-based correspondents with us this week from the Sunday Telegraph. And Elisabeth Moutet, how are you?
I'm very well.
Also with us, Régis Le Sommier. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to Régis Le Sommier.
Happy New Year.
Of Paris Match, the French news magazine. Fouad Al-Obaid of the Kuwait Times. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
And Craig Kapitas of Bloomberg News. So welcome to all of you, The World This Week, where you can join in on the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, where our handle is at François F24. After 2008, everyone assumed that the 2012 presidential election race would be a bit of a letdown. Still, on Tuesday, the whole world turned its gaze on the frozen January plains of the Midwest and that obscure American contraption they call the Iowa caucuses. Lo and behold, the kickoff to the Republican race for president wasn't so boring after all. The tightest race on record, 8 votes the difference, and the frontrunners out of the starting blocks.
And do our best. And
thank you so much for. We face an extraordinary challenge in America, and you know that. And that is, internationally, Iran is about to have nuclear weaponry just down the road here. And this president, what's he done in that regard? He said he'd have a policy of engagement.
Okay, that was Mitt Romney, the front runner in that race, winning it by a mere 8 votes. Mitt Romney, who beat out Rick Santorum, who surged. Craig Kapitas, the Iowa caucuses. We had one of our viewers, John from New Jersey, points out that Romney spent $14 million in Iowa for 30,000 votes. That's what, 4,600 votes, $4,600 per vote. Was it a good return on investment?
What a deal! But that's what these people do. And that is, by the way, Sunday night or Saturday night spending money, you know, for the Romney fortune and for his campaign treasury. He needed to do that. He needed to do that to come out of Iowa looking like the front runner. He is the presumptive front runner, but whether he actually looks like the front runner going forward into New Hampshire and down next into South Carolina remains to be seen. Did he get his money's worth? I think if he's only winning by 8 votes, he really didn't. But the one thing is that what you have right now going on is a savage fight, down and dirty savage fight for the soul of the Republican Party. This fight has been going on since the Nixon years, since the Nixon Southern strategy. And it's getting really ugly this year, and you're going to see it get uglier in New Hampshire, and then it's going to turn into World Wrestling Federation time once it gets down to South Carolina. These guys are going after Mitt Romney because they think he's a liberal, and they don't want him as the Republican Party leader.
Régis Le Sommier, you covered the last time around when there were caucuses in the presidential election. In Iowa last time around, it was an evangelical who won. And then the fiscal conservative vote got split along the way. In light of that, what are the chances of somebody like Rick Santorum who surged?
Well, I think it shows clearly, I mean, and we've been following all the debates, and we've seen how, in a way, out of touch the Republican Party seemed with not only the world, but also a lot of American voters, because they're fighting for this specific constituency, which is the heart of their own party. I think they're clearly divided. There is no clear leader. They're just looking around where they can go, looking around who they can elect, and looking around vaguely, I think, of who could defeat the president, Obama. And what we've seen is that, of course, you know, it's also going to be Mitt Romney, who's the one who can appeal to a larger pool of vote, because it's all very fine. I mean, elect Rick Santorum, take devout Catholic, anti-abortion, from Pennsylvania. You might, in fact, appeal to a large audience in the Republican Party. But who are you going to appeal to next? Who are you going to be able to grasp on the Obama camp? who are you going to be able to seduce in the Obama people that are somewhat, not fed up with the current policy, but who are somewhat, looking after something new? There is not, but there is not anything really new in the Republican Party.
Class.
Sorry?
The working class, or rather the non-working
do you
class.
think these people appeal? I mean, do they have shown? I mean, in the debates that we've seen, even including Ron Paul, to me, they seem out of tune with much of the issues of the modern world of the 21st century.
I would say that they're out of tune with the issues of the 20th or 21st century, seen from Europe, but not necessarily seen from what Americans call flyover country.
I have
the coast.
I have a lot of Republican friends that don't recognize themselves in these people.
I'm pretty sure they recognize themselves in Mitt Romney.
People like McCain seems fairly. I mean, we miss McCain in a way, even us as journalists, because McCain, you knew, and he had a wider audience, an appeal to a wider audience.
But
there you find people that are doing that are out preaching. People like Bachmann, and when you hear Santorum, it's no better. And it's not. It's
not fair.
It's
I mean, she's really strange. But Santorum is an entirely different man. He was elected United States Senator. He actually has pretty good speeches. He is very conservative, which you may not care for, but he's a serious politician.
But I don't see in him the young governor coming from afar, like we like in the American politics, coming from afar and making a perfect run. I don't see that in Rick Santorum, honestly.
And it brings up a really interesting point here. United States senators, historically, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln, make god-awful presidents because senators are
including Kennedy.
Yes, because senators are legislators, and particularly in this time, I'll explain why. Senators are legislators. They spend money. They want pork. They want to create legislation that spends taxpayer money and create legislation that gets money. Now, in a time of cutting back, governors who make better presidents because they're actually executives who have to manage a state. And governors cut. Governors don't spend.
So Bush was
Sarah
better
Palin,
than
not
Obama.
Obama.
If you from a Bush may have been the exception that proves the rule, but historically a governor should come in with a better sense of physically how to manage.
They've actually managed.
They've actually managed.
There is
something.
the point, and again, we mentioned it, Craig, at the outset, which is the money. And Romney's the only one who's got a lot of cash and the credentials to, as Régis was saying, steal centrist votes from Obama in the fall. But as Mike Thompson of the Detroit Free Press points out in a cartoon this week, the Republicans having trouble getting worked up over Romney. Fix the leaky faucet, change the furnace filter, caulk the tub, replace the toilet chain, vote for Romney, says the GOP establishment to a seemingly fatigued husband. Fouad Al-Obaid, are you interested? Is this something when you see Romney, or do you think yourself this is going to be a great campaign in the fall?
Well, I don't know. I think being from the Middle East, my perspective is a bit different. What I took out of the primaries and the general, context of the elections that are upcoming, and in general, I came up with this comparison that there's a polarization in the Arab world and in the U.S. with religion being at the center versus secularism, which I think is a very interesting dynamics. On the one hand, we have the U.S. trying to make the Arab world more secular and more liberal, and at the same time, we're seeing in the U.S. a more religious, comeback, which is kind of against this, secular ideas that the U.S. I think
that's
bears.
an important point. Last time around, Huckabee was the evangelical candidate. Now there's four of them. Right. So is there a trend in that respect?
No, it's just it's a fascinating point that you bring up, Fayed. But my question on this is that whether you look in the Muslim world where this battle is going on, or in the United States where the battle, as you point out, is just as clearly going on, how many people at the end of the day actually vote for these religious candidates? And if there was voting in these countries in the Middle East, how many people would actually support a mullatory, an elected mullatory? I think in the United States, as Regis was pointing out, there's no doubt that the vast majority of Americans would never vote for a Rick Santorum or a Newt Gingrich. These are not so much politicians as they are proselytizers. Mm-hmm. And
So was Huckabee.
yes, and you see, but the reason we have to kind of smile is in that they actually believe what they're saying.
Exactly.
Like the religious leaders in the Middle East believe they believe this.
And I'll add on to it. I think, this comes not surprisingly at a time of greater economic uncertainty, whereby the religious card and element seems to play a much essential role towards reassuring the people in times of darkness where, follow us, we'll guide you towards light. And in these kind of contexts, it's reasonable, to understand that a lot of people that are going through a lot of economic hardships, most countries are facing a financial crisis in one way, shape, or form. So, these kind of people kind of give them the hope that religion can give people to believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today, whereas, politicians on the ground have to take the rational decisions of cutting down budgets and balancing budgets and whatnot at a time where a lot of people are facing hardship. That, I think plays into the element of the religious card. And that's, your question, whether people in the Arab world would vote for Islamists and whatnot. I think the understanding here, and I keep mentioning it, is that Islamist doesn't necessarily mean terrorists, which seems to be...
No, of course not. No, I wouldn't. No, I didn't mean
on that ground, I think a lot of people are religious. And today, the way our globalized world is structured is that people and cultures are interacting at a greater pace, and a lot of people are trying to find their place in this world. And I think that's where religion comes to help them.
And by the way, Barack Obama telling supporters this week he feels more confident now than when he first ran about his chances for re-election. On foreign policy, one issue that seems to be coming to a head where the Republicans claim they smell weakness.
It's an extraordinary challenge in America, and you know that.